Okay, so today we're going to talk about comparing and ordering decimals. Super fun. Before we're going to talk about comparing and ordering decimals, though, I want to talk about changing fractions to decimals, because sometimes when you're comparing and ordering, it gives you a mix of fractions and decimals. So we need to know how to do that. This is your numerator, fraction bar, denominator. Another way of talking about 3/4 is 3 divided by 4. So that's exactly how we are going to change a fraction into a decimal. We're going to do our numerator divided by our denominator. We know that 3/4 is less than a whole, so 4 cannot go into 3. We're going to have to add a decimal and a 0. I didn't change the value of that 3. I just changed the way it looks so that I can divide. 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract. I'm left with 2. I can add another 0. Bring it down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. I'm left with 0, so that tells me I'm done. That tells me that 3/4 is equal to 75 hundredths. Okay, here's one for you guys to try on your own. You're going to turn 2/5 into a decimal. So you're going to do 2 divided by 5. Go ahead and pause your video here and try it, and then I'll have the answer for you to check after you press play. Okay, as I said, you should have done 2 divided by 5. Again, this is a fraction less than a whole, so I'm going to have to add a decimal and a 0. Bring out my decimal here. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract, I'm left with 0. So that tells me that 2/5 is equivalent to 4/10. So again, this is going to be important when sometimes you get to a problem and it has fractions and decimals. Always divide your numerator divided by your denominator to turn your fraction into a decimal. Make sure you make that note in your journal. Okay, now for comparing decimals. Let's say we have the decimals, 0 and 2/10. 0 and 22 hundredths, and then 0 and 2,000ths, or 200ths, I'm sorry. And let's put these in order from least to greatest. In order to do that, I'm going to start at my greatest place value, which is, in this case, is my ones place. I have a 0, a 0, a 0. Not going to help me. I like to cross out those ones that I'm already done with. I move on to my next place value, which is my tenths. I have a 2, and a 0. That tells me that my 0 is going to be my least. So I'm going to go ahead and put it down here in least. This one's done. Now I'm going to move to my next place value. Nothing's here. I can put a 0 without changing the value, and a 2. 0 is less than 2, so that comes next. Then I have, last but not least, 0 and 22 hundredths. So I would say 0 and 2 hundredths is less than 0 and 2 tenths, which is less than 0 and 22 hundredths. Okay, let's look at this side. It says write the decimals in order from least to greatest. We have 1/3, 0 and 31 hundredths, and 0 and 33 thousandths. I want you to pause the video here and try this one on your own. Remember, you have to change 1/3 to a decimal. Okay, hopefully you have turned those into, or this into a decimal, and that you've already completed this. to change 1/3 into a decimal, I'm going to do 1 divided by 3. 3 cannot go into 1. 3 can go into 10. 3 times 3 is 9. 1, 3 into 10, again, is 3. This is what we call a repeating decimal. It's never going to end. It's going to be 0.33333333. So in order to show that, we can put a 0.3 with a line over the top. So that's 1/3 is equal to 0, 3 repeating. So now I'm ready to compare. Again, I'm going to start at my greatest place value. 0, 0, 0. Not going to help me. 3, 3, 0. That does help me. 0 and 33 thousandths is going to be my least, so I'm done with them. Okay, so for this one, I have nothing here, but remember we said 3 repeating. So instead of a 0, I'm actually going to put a 3 there and then a 1. 1 is less than 3, so that comes next in my least to greatest. And then my last, I'm going to go ahead and put 1/3 because that's what it was, or I could put 0 and 3/10 repeating. So 0 and 33 thousandths is less than 0 and 31 hundredths, which is less than 1/3. Okay, go ahead and again pause and try this one on your own. Okay, here's your answer here. 1 and 877 thousandths is greater than 1 and 87 hundredths, which is greater than 1 and 807 thousandths. Okay, now you are going to move on and do the activity. Before you leave class today, make sure you go up to your teacher and tell them you are awesome. That's how we know that you finished this whole video. Have a great day.